Hello, this is Charles McCall again, and this is session 2 in 2 short sessions where I'm sharing with you on how to create annual goals. Okay, the title of it actually is, where did it go? The Annual Planning Process. And so the idea is, if you don't plan, if you fail to plan, then you are actually planning to fail. No plan is actually a plan. Even if you don't plan, there is a plan, and it is messy, it will go whatever, and it's by chance that you will accomplish anything. And so you want to establish a plan, and then you want to do annual planning from year to year. It means that you as the senior leader, and it means that your staff or your department heads, is that each of you think in terms of growth. You set growth goals. How can I grow my department by the end of next year? You see, this is a different way of thinking for some people. They're not used to doing growth planning. They're used to doing maintenance planning. We're just going to maintain, to keep doing what we're doing, but you probably want your entity to grow. Maybe you don't, but most of us, we want our entity and what we're doing to grow. And so in September, October, and so we have a questionnaire, and we give it to our key staff, our department heads, and we're asking them to think through what do they want to see by the end of the following year, December 31st of the following year. What do they want to see in their department? And think in terms of growth. This is not a complaining session. We don't have our staff complain to us, is that I don't have enough, I can't do that. That's a separate meeting. You need to talk to negative people like that. And here's a key for you, by the way. You train your staff to bring you solutions, not bring you problems. Staff should be solution-oriented, not problem-oriented. If a staff brings you a problem, they dump it on you. It's putting a monkey on your back. Here, boss, I can't do this. You do it for me. And your response should be, well, let's brainstorm and get some ideas, and you come back with 3 or 4 different solutions. You put it back on them. Now, maybe you have low-level staff. Well, that's another problem. It means that there's been a training aspect that is lacking. You need to have regular training, capacity development for your staff. So you're teaching them how to make decisions. You're teaching them how to solve problems. And so this is not a complaining session where your staff complain, oh, we don't have enough, I don't have enough, this, that, and the other thing. Okay, if you don't have enough training, put that into your goal for next year. That you want to have monthly training they want to have monthly training with their staff and volunteers. They want to take an extra class or increase their understanding, their knowledge a bit. They put that into their goals. By the way, just because someone submits a goal and a plan to you as the boss, it doesn't mean that it's automatically approved. It usually is not approved. Usually this is why we start in September, because usually we meet one time, we put it all together, and we say, nope, too much money, we can't do it, go back and revise it. Sometimes 2 or 3 times we have to do that until we get down to a level that is a stretch for us, but we feel like it is a good stretch that we can do it. Okay, so I just want to remind you, 9 steps to project completion. You have to do all of these. You have to do all of them. First and foremost is vision. Vision answers the question, where are we going? What do we want to see with this entity 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now? If you can't answer that, well then you need to go back to the drawing board. The goals. The goals are SMART goals. They're specific, they're measurable, they're attainable, they're relevant, and they're time-oriented. That's a SMART goal. And so you will probably have to teach your staff how to write SMART goals. And then you have the strategy. Strategy answers the question, how are we going to do it? Goal is the marker that we have for that year. Strategy says, how are we going to get there? What are we going to do? And then staffing. What kind of people do I need to do this? And budget, how much is it going to cost? And that's usually where it breaks down, because all of my staff, they would have great vision because I taught them to have great vision. I taught them how to have great goals. I taught them how to grow their department. And so they would come back with a great big goals and these great ideas and a great big budget that I felt like we couldn't afford. Now, we were a church, and so we believed in a faith budget. And maybe it was a little more than what we thought we could get, but we were going to give it a try. And so it's okay for the budget to be a little unrealistic, because you hope that you're going to get income in. But it can't be so far out that it's impossible to do it. And so that's another aspect of planning on how we're going to get the money. And then training. And so every new staff, every staff needs to be trained. You as a leader should be having, I would say, at least, you should have staff meetings, I've got a lesson on 4 different kinds of meetings. Okay, there's a book called Death by Meetings, and you can get that. It's an interesting read. And the very last couple chapters, it talks about 4 different kinds of meetings. You need to have those 4 different kinds of meetings. They need to be built into your weekly schedule. And again, most of this stuff is on my YouTube. So you can contact me, or you can go to my YouTube, Mentoring Growing Leaders, and you can probably find these on there. But staffing, you need to have staff meetings, weekly short staff meetings with a specific purpose. You need to have monthly staff meetings, and you need to have monthly training. You choose one subject that you can develop the capacity of your staff. You choose one subject that would fit all of them, and then you need to have annual training seminars where maybe you take a half a day or 2 or 3 hours and you bring in somebody and they do training. If you are not developing the capacity of your staff, you're not thinking growth. You're thinking maintenance. And then budget, training, then overseeing. And so whatever the project is, if it's a kids class, if it's a mission to a village, if it's a department in a factory, somebody needs to check up on it. And the person that you want to check up on it needs to have your eyes and your thinking. You don't want them to go out there and say, oh, this looks good. And then they come back and it really, they're not seeing it the way that you would see it. And so that is your role. Your primary role as a leader is to develop the capacity of your key staff. That's called the 80-20 principle. You spend 80% of your time with key staff, overseeing them, making sure they're healthy, making sure they're equipped, and they do the work for you. They do the rest of the work for you. And then you evaluate. Okay, so let's do every 3 months or every quarter. Every quarter at least, semi-annual, half-yearly, you should have an evaluation of every department. And you evaluate how? You evaluate based upon your goals. How are we doing with your goals? And at your staff meeting, that's the question that you ask. So how are you doing in achieving your goals? All right, and so that's what one of the things that the staff meeting is. And again, I've got lessons on staff meeting, and I'm available to personally be a personal consultant with you as well. You evaluate, do we need to change anything? And that's the final step. You make the adjustments that are necessary. So look at this slide. I'm just beginning to start an outreach. It's called VMeans Kids Project. And so these are 2022 annual goals. And so it's called the Foundation Year. And so the vision, this is the vision to see 100 children and youth in Siem Reap province stay in school and finish university or trade school. So that is the vision. So everything that we do moves us toward this end. And so we evaluate every opportunity. We evaluate every partnership. We evaluate every action. Is this going to lead us toward our vision, or is this going to lead us away from our vision? On the next slide, you see the 9 goals. These are 9 goals that I have for 2022. And they're SMART goals because they're specific, they're measurable, and they're time-oriented. They're relevant to what we're doing, and they're able to be accomplished. Number 1, 20 new children and youth sponsored. By December 31st, 2022, we want 20 new children sponsored. Number 2, school on the mat, at least 3 days in 4 villages. Number 3, health missions 2 times, at least 2 times. Number 4, agricultural training, at least 2 times. 1 in the first half of the year, 1 in the last half of the year is the plan. Leadership training in high schools 10 times a year, every month, 10 times. So it means starting in March, or maybe skipping April in Cambodia because it's a major holiday, or skipping another month. 1 new staff added, that would be a social worker / teacher. 1 new staff added in 2022. 2 staff training planning retreats. You see, I built this into my goals. I will have monthly training with my staff. Actually, I will have weekly training with my staff, short training. And I will have monthly short training, but then we will go away, not too far, but so we're not distracted, we're not disturbed, and we will do specific capacity development training that is associated with our vision and with where we're going. Number 8, construct 1 new community center. So we have 4 villages. The goal is to have 4 community centers. In 2022, we hope to have 1 community center built. And number 9, raise or earn money to pay for it all. All right, and so those are my 9 SMART goals for next year, for 22. I'm doing this I'm making this lesson in 2021, so I'm talking about next year. So here's the next slide. You see, here's the questions that I have to ask. These are great goals. They're wonderful goals. I don't have any staff. I don't have any money. And so these are great goals. They might, but they're not going to be a wish. They're going to happen. But the question I have to ask is, what must be done to accomplish these goals? And making the goals is where many people stop, where many leaders stop. But the next question is, what do I need to do to accomplish these goals? And so clear action steps. So I go back to goal number 1, 20 new children and youth sponsored by December 31st, 2022. And so now I have to put action steps underneath that. I have to ask myself and answer the question, how am I going to get 20 new children and 20 new sponsors? All right, well, that means I'm going to have to make contact with village leaders. I'm going to have to make contact with families. I'm going to have to interact, not me probably, but probably my staff will do that on my behalf, and I will help them evaluate it. And so it means we'll have to go visit. We'll have to have some questionnaires. We'll have to do some interviews. And for finding sponsors, I'm going to have to do some advertising. I'm going to have to contact some people, and I will be the primary fundraiser for this season of our program. But the point is, you have a goal, and now you have to have action steps. And again, this is up to your manager, not for you. It's up to your manager, the person that is overseeing the department. And so they create the goal, and they and their team, again, not by themselves, do things in teams. And so you get your department head and 2 or 3 others who work or serve or volunteer in that department, and you discuss it together. So how can we do this? And then they will bring it back to you, and you will help them work through it. Number 2, school on a mat, at least 3 days in 4 villages. All right, great. It's very worthwhile, important aspect of what I'm doing, what we're doing. But how? How am I going to do that? Well, it involves contacting the village leader. It involves training the teachers so that they're up to snuff, so that they're going to be able to do the training in math and science and Khmer language and English language. So maybe I've got to find tutors to train my tutors. Maybe I've got to find curriculum to help develop their capacity. And so that's no problem. I can do that at our annual staff training, our monthly staff training. And we've got to find a location, get permission, contact the students, prepare all the forms that are necessary. So you think through all of the action steps to do it, and I have to do that for all 9 of these. And so your department head, your staff, need to do the same thing. If you've never done this before, you will probably need at least a one-day orientation. You and your staff will probably need at least a one-day orientation to learn how to do this. Okay, and so again, I'm available for a fee to do consulting with you on this. And then after you get it laid out, then you have to ask, how much is it going to cost? Say how much it's going to cost for supplies, transportation, for the training, any materials. And so you estimate what you think the cost is going to be. And then, when will you do it? Okay, so if we go back, when you get the calendar out, and so when will we start school on the map? When will I go to the village leader and make contact? When will we meet with the parents? And so you put the month in. You don't have to put the specific day in, but you put it on a calendar, and it forces you to get into action. And so you're going to have a personal calendar that is associated with your goals. You can put it on your wall, and your goals and your strategies, and you put it on your wall to remind you, and you become accountable for that. And so in the staff meetings, when you're reporting to your boss, or when your staff are reporting to you, that's part of the discussion. So let me know, how are you doing on your annual goals? Let's see, you had this one, this one, this one. How are you doing on these? You would say, are you moving forward? What percentage are you moving forward? Have you accomplished it? And you look at the budget, and you look at the calendar. You said that you would do this. Well, you haven't done it yet. So what's your plan? And so we have an obstacle. We had a problem. Now we're going to do it here. Okay, so let's move it over there. And then where are you going to get the money? And so these are questions. Once you make your goals, making the goals are easy. But doing the strategy and the budget and the staffing is a little more difficult. And so you'll see the next slide, monthly progress reports. And so you have a meeting. You have to have a meeting of all of your department heads each month. And in the meeting, this is the way that I do it. I allow them to talk first. I have something to say, but I allow them to talk first because I want to show them respect. I want them the opportunity to get things off of their chest. Sometimes they'll bring up a subject that is not appropriate to talk about in a 1 hour or 90-minute staff meeting. So monthly staff meetings, 90 minutes. Listen, you have weekly staff meetings just to talk about what you're going to do that week. You have monthly staff meetings for maybe 90 minutes to do what we're doing here, monthly progress reports. And then you have maybe a half a day staff meeting every quarter. And then you have at least an annual retreat. You should have 2 annual retreats, one to review the first half of the year, one to review the second half and prepare for the next year. And so our staff will bring up things that they're not appropriate to talk about. They get us distracted. And so you can say, all right, and so you always, by the way, you always have an assistant. You always have a secretary or you have an assistant that you're training to do this for you. And so your assistant, okay, make a note of that, and you remind me that you and I will meet privately on what you're talking about. I don't want to talk about it right now. We want to stay focused, but I will meet with you privately, and so we'll make an appointment later this week or next week. How are you progressing towards your goals? Short. You don't have them talk along. In 2 minutes, or let's say in 3 minutes. In 3 minutes, I want you to tell me, how are you progressing towards your goals? What obstacles do you have? And what can we do to solve it? Okay, you don't give them 30 minutes, no way. But you give them about maybe at the very most 5 minutes. Depends on how many staff you have, how many department heads you have. You got 90 minutes, and you let them know, we have 90 minutes, and then you can leave. You can go back to your work or do what you're doing. And so I'll give you 5 minutes. Give me a progress. Just give me a summary of it. Okay? And if you need further discussion, you meet with them individually, or you call another meeting. Okay? You don't let them dominate the meeting. And so you can do that at a different time. Okay? We're going to have next month, we're going to have a quarterly half-day off-site staff meeting. And we'll put that as an agenda item for us to talk about then. We're not going to throw it away. I will meet with you and we can discuss it, but we'll put it on the agenda for our off-site half-day staff meeting. This is just how I've done it for all these many years, and it works. And then what obstacles do you have? And you tell me, how can we solve it? Okay? And then if you need to, you can follow up with a private meeting with them. And if you need to, you put it on the agenda for the half-day off-site staff meeting. Every decision, look at the slide, every decision and every dollar spent is compared to the annual organization and departmental goals. And so you have a vision. So before you commit to spending money, something that is either outside the budget or something new, doing something new, you need to ask yourself, does this fit into our annual goals? If it doesn't, well then we need to decide, are we going to change it? And maybe you are going to change it. You can change it. The annual goals are not the Bible. They're not something that is set in stone like the 10 Commandments from God. They can be changed. Annual goals can be changed, but you need to be careful about just changing them too much. That's why you need time to think about this thoroughly. So again, the 9 steps to project completion: vision, goals, SMART goals, strategy, staffing, budget, training in its various forms, overseeing, evaluation, and adjustment. And so I've given you a summary. This right here is probably at least an 8-hour or 10-hour or longer training session. And we could be looking at forms, we could be being more specific about all of it. But I'm sharing this with you because it is really important for you to plan. You as a senior leader, you as a department head, to plan on what's it going to look like, what you hope it's going to look like. Remember, a plan is like a map. It shows you your destination and probably the best way to get there. There might be a different way. You may have to take a detour. There might be a better way. But at least it's a map to get you moving. And there's many unknowns. And so staff may quit, the economy may fall, there are other things that can come up that can cause problems and cause adjustment. That's okay, but at least you have a plan so that you're moving forward, okay? So don't let the fear of something changing, something not working, keep you from making a plan. You should make a realistic plan, and we call that the plan, the vision. The core of the plan would be vision and goals and strategy and budget would be the core of the plan. You need to at least have that in place, but really all 9 of these steps, you need to put this on your wall and you need to be working through it. Your staff need to be aware of this, because not just you, but all of your staff. Everything that you know, you should be trying to impart to your staff so that you're raising your entire staff up to a whole new level of leadership. All right, so I wish you great success in the new year in whatever your entity is. And again, this is not intended to be a promotion for me, but I can probably help you. And so if you want to contact me, we can work on how we might be able to do some consulting with you if that's something that you want to do. All right, so great success in the coming year in everything that you do.